get into this right away. No bullshit needed. I will, however, say that this episode is exactly like the Oedipus of Homerific lore. It is a motherfucker. But I guess that's really just all part of the process.
Science! And hit me with technology.
Well, if it isn't my nemesis, Chris Trismegistus, you.
Tis I.
And your cat.
Tis she.
Dr. Gross.
And
Man.
my
That petered out quickly. Petered out
man-slut assistant,
real quick.
Smelly Uncle Mike.
I always liked creepy Uncle Mike better than smelly Uncle Mike. Smelly
Yeah.
Uncle Mike, I guess, maybe gets to the point better, but creepy Uncle Mike leaves it ambiguous.
My man-slut assistant, Sticky Uncle Mike.
It's like, what the fuck's this dude up to kind of shit, you know?
Yeah.
Oh. So, how was your week, buddy?
Pretty non-eventful, to be honest.
I mean, that's better than super, like, crazy bad eventful. So,
True that.
you got that going for you.
Had some California, had some mountains,
Ooh,
had some sun.
heading to the California mountains and sun,
Yeah, I
where
gotta
Chris
go back
will
there too.
surf down the highest peak, known as the Grand Tetons. That's in California, right?
The Grand what?
Tetons, Tetuns.
I'm sure
Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Melissa's
sir, but
looking
it
at me like I'm
sounds-
making up some kind of fantasy novel, and you
Sounds like
are
sexual harassment to me.
you're giving me no better. Listeners out there might notice a lack of a third voice tonight.
My eyes are up here, Jason.
That's your eyes are up there, but that's not where your bulge is it, Chris? You don't answer the door in your underwear without it being an invitation.
You can see my
Am I
balls
right,
in
Melissa?
this dress? Damn it.
I'm right, Melissa, right? Suddenly you're a mime. The show has heard your voice before. I will make an episode out of purely clips of your voice.
I don't really see anything wrong with answering the door.
There you go. In a porno, right?
But I thought you were talking about the regular, just normal life.
No, I was talking about regular normal life. I was. Okay, Chris can't understand you or hear you.
Yeah, I can hear it. It just sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher to me.
He said you sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to him, which I think is super
I did
sexy.
not say she sounds like that. I said over this connection in the background.
Oh.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, yeah,
Don't get me in trouble.
She
What you
inferred
trying to do?
that through context.
She's
Oh my
still
God.
terrifying even through the phone. Don't.
Yeah,
fuck with-
I agree. Let's
Don't
nip
do
that
that.
shit right in the butt. So, there's maybe a little bit of a
No,
reason
motherfucker.
that I am I'm procrastinating this evening. That would be because I guess disclaimer time. We don't do a whole lot of disclaimers because we don't think them necessary. But
True.
this one deserves it more than most. There's a lot of really, like, I mean this, guys. Like, some fucking horrible shit happens to people in this one. And
It's been a while since we've had one.
Yeah.
That required a disclaimer.
Yeah, and I mean, we did a 3-episode series about a guy that picked up innocent hitchhiking ladies and killed them and cut their heads off and had sex with their bodies. We didn't do a disclaimer in front of that.
Right.
So-
if that's a hint.
Man, like this one is rough, and unfortunately, it is also again Japanese.
What do you know?
This one, just organizing my my notes for the episode tonight.
All I can say is at least it's not Russian.
I would almost rather Russian, because then at least we could make fun of my terrible Russian pronunciations. But unfortunately, I'm decent with Japanese pronunciations.
Just some
So-
horrible Japanese shit. Okay.
So tonight, that's all the warning you get, people. If you want out, now's the fucking time, because now starts the goddamn story. All right, and we will wait exactly 3 seconds. 3, 2, and 1.
Fuck
And
off,
now-
you pansies.
Now we get into one of the only stories that, out of necessity, drove me to drink for the show.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, right? Our story tonight begins during the Second Sino-Japanese War. It was called as such because after the First Sino-Japanese War, which lasted from 1894 to 1895, it was a military conflict fought primarily between China and Japan. The second, of course, running from 1937 to 1941. China actually fought Japan with help from Germany, with economic help, with fucking money from Germany, which is weird considering that the Japanese, in just a scant few years, would then go on to join Germany in a plot of world domination. So basically, you have to know that Japan, starting with China, was basically they were attempting to take over Asia, which is a very large chunk of the planet that we live on, Chris.
It is, indeed.
So, I mean, it was fought from 37 to 41, so not exactly
Lots of
10 years,
forces.
but I mean, long enough for some pretty terrible, war is hell things to happen. And the more I read on this whole show isn't even an act of war. It's more, it's an act of research, actually, but it's fucking stone cold blooded, goddamn, just detached from any sense of humanity, research in the name of science, which as a man of science, which does research, not scientific, but I value people that do very highly.
As do
This
I.
is still deplorable by many many standards. Is that what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, I get where you're going with this, and that, unfortunately, there's been a shitload of it over the years. Maybe not to this degree, maybe not, but yeah, no, I guarantee it's going on as we speak.
Ouch.
In most countries, shit that is morally and or legally gray,
Yeah.
for lack of a better way to put it. But I mean, I'm not condoning it in any way. I'm just saying.
Of course not. You're just saying that
all
it's something
research-
that would still happen because research must go on, and humanity is a terrible race indeed.
Exactly. As long as it can all be, put into the pile, it's all beneficial
man.
some kind of way.
You had to fucking say pile. So in 1932, a certain General Shiro Ishii He was the chief medical officer of the Japanese Army and the protege of the Army Minister Sado Araki. Anyway, Ishii was placed in command of the Army Epidemic Prevention Research Laboratory. He organized a secret research group, the Togo Unit, for various chemical and biological experimentation in Manchuria, where during the Second Sino-Japanese War, when our story takes place, this whole thing actually happens on mainland China. It was of course, an occupied by the Japanese area of China. So, Ishii had proposed the creation of a Japanese biological and chemical research unit in 1930, and after a 2-year study trip abroad, the grounds that Western powers were developing their own programs. So, in other words, it went abroad and just came to the conclusion that Europe and America were also going along with these chemical and biological weapons research programs.
Okay.
One of his main supporters inside the army was Colonel Chika. Damn it! I actually studied this name and how to say it. Chikai Iko Koizumi. He later became Japan's health minister from 1941 to 1945. He was the one that had gone abroad and came back with this study. He had joined a secret poison gas research committee in 1915 during World War I, when he and other Japanese army officers were impressed by the successful German use of chlorine gas at the Second Battle of Ypres, where the Allies, we had 15,000 deaths as a result of the chlorine gas attacks at this one battle, Chris.
Wow, is ours.
I actually think
and this was just an experiment?
Well, no. This is the Japanese the Japanese were basically really impressed by what the Germans did with chlorine gas at that specific battle.
Okay. I see.
Right. So they were
don't
like,
know where I was
"Hey,
confusing
that's
that.
something that we should really look into, because monkey see, monkey make biological weaponry.
That's fucked up.
See no, hear no, speak no is the name of the show, right?
Indeed, which we never did actually introduce, by
Yeah.
the way.
We didn't do that part. We'll do it later. So, Ishii implemented a unit that they called the Togo Unit in the Zongma Fortress, which was a prison/experimentation camp in Bayin, a village south of Harbin, in the South Manchurian Railway. So if you are alive before World War II in China, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yes. So they are at this specific fortress where he had set up shop. There was a jailbreak in the autumn of 1934, and later an explosion, which was then believed to be an attack in 1935, led him to shut down the fortress. He had received authorization to move to Pingfang, which is south of Harbin as well. I guess Harbin must be very north for at least two of the cities I'm talking about to be south of it. And there he would set up a much, much, much larger facility. So in 1936, Emperor fucking Hirohito himself authorized by imperial decree the expansion of this unit and its integration into the Kwantung Army as the Epidemic Prevention Department.
Prevention.
So this,
huh?
so this unit ended up being part of like a bigger collective of units, and they were all under the umbrella as of August 1940 as the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwantung Army.
Wow. Okay, that's
Right.
it's pretty
Right?
colorful way to hide it.
What do you
Or
mean
to-
colorful?
I mean,
I mean, it
throw
was-
some,
Mm.
throw some
So-
big words in there, put one in to throw you off, and
Well,
call it a day.
I mean, there was technically a reason for that, and I think I get into it a little later. But the reason that they called themselves as such, being the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department of the Kwantung Army, was that they put themselves out there as much. They didn't. I mean, they hid what they did, absolutely. Even if a lot of the underlings never realized that what they were doing was wrong, or later realized how horrific it was, the higher ups always fucking knew how horrific it was and hid it at every goddamn turn, you know? There was
Okay.
a special project that took place here that was codenamed Maruda. It used human beings for experiments.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that, Chris? What do you think about human beings as guinea pigs / lab rats / I don't know, like that fetal pig that they made you cut open in fucking high school, poke around in its brains, which just looked like banana pudding, which disturbs me to this day.
I mean, it's the only thing I can say. I mean, I couldn't personally do it, and I would never condone doing things like this to people against their will.
Oh, but this isn't condoning anything. This is being told by your government that it's the right thing to do to save your fucking homeland.
Well, first of all, I think I think that's always been a really fucked up thing. in that
America,
authority figures can make you do really
America,
fucked up shit.
God, make
No, just
some
every country.
stuff out of me.
The
Well,
fucking
I know,
kings
but-
and shit like that were the worst.
But this is our country. This is our country.
emperors
so-
and all that, the fucking worst.
Well, yeah. I mean, absolute power corrupts absolutely powerfully. And
It
birth.
disgusts me to hear about all the different things that they have done. But like I'll continue to say, in the pursuit of science, I don't necessarily think it's right, but the information gathered
Is invaluable.
Invaluable, exactly. So, continue with your horrific atrocities.
You ever heard of that time that prince in I don't know, let's say Romania, had sex with all those toys and then gave them out dressed up as Santa Claus, and then was like, haha, all your toys have VD, and then he just ran away and no one ever fucking saw him again.
What?
Yeah. You remember that? When that happened? That was big news like 3-4 years ago, right, Melissa?
What?
Yeah. Chris,
Never
that
heard
never
about
that
that.
guess that never happened, Chris.
The fuck?
The fact that you even for just a split second was like, wait, what? Kind of
Sounds like
scares
some
me.
dumbass Jason shit, but at the same time, people are capable of any fucking thing.
That's a Bible fact. Oh, motherfucker.
We haven't had one of those in a while either. Shit.
It's been a long time, yeah. What's weird is that's a sincere one. So this project code name Maruda, the reasoning for that name, test subjects were gathered from basically just the population, and they also did take POWs and some other assorted people that we'll talk about. But uh, the the test subjects were sometimes referred to as logs. That says here euphemistically, but
Oh.
I think
Nice.
that's a softening blow to say that they fucking called the people that they experimented on logs.
Logs.
Logs. Like it's log, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood, it's log, it's
Wow.
log, it's better than bad. At
It's
least you're not
good.
getting cut open while you're still alive.
It's not good. And now, new dream date log.
Oh
Wow,
man,
that's
Dream
fucked
Date
up.
Log was the dream datiest, wasn't he?
He came with a corsage for you and everything.
Well, you know,
Uh.
because if he didn't come with a corsage, then you'd have the lawsuits, and then you'd have the, oh my god, that log tried to rape my son, you know? And, I mean, the Purdue basketball team just couldn't take the loss, so, sorry, Purdue, I don't even know where you are in our country. I just figured that you would have a rapist log on your team, and that's probably my prejudice, and I apologize. None of this is
That's
making Melissa
nasty.
even smile, and that bothers me.
I wasn't
That's
listening.
nasty.
I wasn't listening is her excuse, and that makes me feel even worse. She's out here reading Harry Potter or some shit.
The Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games. Again? You're like some kind of weird, like, fanfic writing girl.
Girls.
Okay, so back to the logs. Remember, they're better than bad, they're good. Dude, if I owned a gun, I would kill myself at the end of this episode.
I'm
The
looking
ter-
forward to whatever
term
you
ori-
got in store.
The term originated as a joke on the part of the staff because the official cover story for the facility given to the local authorities was that it was a lumber mill. Shut
Wow.
up, Chris. Shut it. Mm-mm. I don't... Son of a
Wow.
bitch.
Damn.
You see how terrible humanity can be?
Dude, it's dry, but it's brutal.
Man, it's like British humor, but for real, you know?
For fucking real. Ooh. Okay. Continue.
In an account by a man who worked as a junior uniformed civilian employee of the Japanese Army in Unit 731, the team Maruta came from a German word meaning medical experiment, used in such context as how many logs fell today. Test subjects were selected to give a wide cross-section of the population and included common criminals, captured bandits, anti-Japanese partisans, political prisoners, and also people rounded up by the Kompintai for alleged quote-unquote suspicious activities. These people included the elderly, pregnant women, and infants.
Wow. Well, I mean, you had some morals at first.
Did you?
Well, kinda, if you're just doing criminals. But
But
But then you
criminals
go,
by
well-
fucking whose standards?
I mean, well, I said some morals. I didn't say it was correct. But then you're like,
The elderly, pregnant women,
Most
and
of these
fucking
people-
infants.
most of these criminals are men between the ages of, let's say fucking 16 to 40. We kind of need to branch out because we need to know if it works well on these types of people. How
Man.
do we rope this in the red tape?
So,
It's
now we
fucked
get
up.
into the specifics of what kind of testing went on here at Unit 731, as well as some of its sister units.
Suspicious behavior. You know that's the fucking easiest way too. And this is what pisses me off about word games. I like words just as much as the next guy. You know,
I think you probably like him more than the next guy, but
perhaps, but
maybe not as
but
much as the guy 3 down. You know, like
what I don't
he-
like,
Mm.
Jason,
Yes, Chris.
is people that use super simple shit to fucking basically fuck your entire life over. Like super simple wording, just turned it whichever
Hey,
way
man.
they wanted.
That's what the
Suspicious behavior.
that's what the rule of law is.
Sounds like the
man.
NSA.
It's
I mean,
it's some very simplified yet really fucking complicated language that was specifically written to take away.
yeah. It's fucked up. Yeah. It's
So-
super fucked up.
So we get into the experiments and the testing now, and we'll, I believe, start with the weapons testing.
Okay.
If this is what I'm starting with, just hold on to your butts, as Samuel L. Jackson would say in Jurassic Park, while
That's
he's
exactly what he said.
trying to turn the fences back on. He says, "Hold on to your butts." He's got that cigarette dangling from his mouth, and he's like super badass, even though he's like a scientist or whatever, like a computer guy that dies like maybe 5 minutes after you meet him.
He was still the scientist that you did not want to piss off in the office.
Oh no, man, his wallet still said "badass motherfucker." You know what? If that would have been my payment for that movie, I'd have been like, I want that wallet, and I want to be able to hold it and have it be my wallet in every other movie I ever play in.
Right? Right? Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And it
Especially if
has
it had
to-
a T-Rex skull on it.
It has to be canon that it says "badass motherfucker." So,
It's fucking raptor leather.
raptor leather, man,
Hell yeah.
that's the name of your fucking mixtape coming out.
Raptor leather.
That's right. Weapons testing. Human targets were used to test grenades positioned at various distances and in different positions.
What?
Flamethrowers were used
So-
on these so-called logs.
Were they
Humans-
just lobbing grenades at people like you go out 20
No,
paces?
man.
and-
This literally has to be very, very scientific. They would set them up at different distances and positions.
Right. So like in a grid or some shit like
So,
that. Okay.
You know, so that the results of their experiment wouldn't be tainted with unknowns.
So like lob the grenade into the middle. They're all set up in a grid. See how big the area of
No, there's no
effect is
lobbing,
and
man.
that
You
kinda
set the
shit.
grenade up on a stick and you pull a pin, while a guy is also tied to a stake a certain distance away from
Oh,
him.
that's fucked up.
So you know.
Either way, it's fucked up, but still.
Well, I mean, the guy tied to the stake knows that no one's getting out of this alive.
Wow, dude.
As well as grenades, flamethrowers were also tested on humans, which, I mean, a bright mind should probably be able to ascertain that a jet stream of molten fire is gonna kill someone, right?
Mhm.
Like, that seems, I don't know, a little excessive, Chris.
Yeah, like exactly what data did you need dialed in to that degree, and why was it so detrimental that you get that specific data?
I don't know,
that-
man. The more you hear about this shit, it sounds like just for the lulz at the end, but
Wow, exactly.
it's fuck, man. It's also government and military brainwashing. Absolutely, it is. It's also just blind nationalism.
What, like
which-
maybe they'll favor me more if I go all in and show no mercy type shit.
Well, I mean, fuck, dude. When you're in the military and you're assigned to a post, you are told to do what you are told. Period.
yeah, no doubt.
There is no well, I have these morals. Well, who fucking cares? You are in the army, and you will do what you're told, because there's nowhere you can go to air your grievances about this.
Right.
So they were also tied to stakes and used as targets to test germ-releasing bombs, chemical weapons, and other assorted explosive bombs. More on the germ warfare attacks. Prisoners were injected with inoculations of diseases disguised as vaccinations to study their effects. They would study the effects of untreated venereal disease, and to do this, male and female prisoners were deliberately infected, often by rape. They were deliberately infected with syphilis and gonorrhea, and then studied. Then they had plague fleas, which they reared there. I guess they grew there. They had infected clothing and infected supplies that they would encase in bombs and drop on various targets.
Did you say plagued fleas?
Yeah, plague fleas. Yeah, like the bubonic plague.
So they engineered fleas to carry the bubonic plague and unleashed them on unsuspecting prisoners.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
awful.
The resulting cholera, anthrax, and bubonic plague were estimated to have killed around possibly more than 400,000 Chinese civilians.
Well, that's just one of the things they did. Jesus fucking Christ. So, you know what? No, I'm going to save this for the end. Continue. I have a question, but
Okay.
I'm going to save it for the end. If I
Unit
can
7
remember it.
Unit 731 and its affiliated units, which were also Unit 1644 and Unit 100, among quite a few others. They were all involved in research, development, and experimental deployment of epidemic creating biowarfare weapons in battles against the Chinese populace, both civilian and military. Like I said, they had plague-infested fleas that were bred in the laboratories of Unit 731 and Unit 1644. They were then spread by low-flying airplanes upon Chinese cities, which include coastal Ningbo, Changde, Hunan Province, and a few others from 1940 to 41. And it killed thousands, tens of thousands, with the bubonic plague, which, man, you really...
Wow.
You really
As
don't
if that
super
disease hadn't
expect
killed
that.
enough people.
So,
Fuck.
the vivisections. These were a very large part of the daily life of Unit 731. Prisoners of
A
war
day in the life, huh?
were subjected to vivisection without anesthesia. These vivisections were performed on prisoners after infecting them with various diseases. Scientists performed invasive surgeries on prisoners, removing organs to study the effects of disease on the human body. These were conducted while the patients were alive, because it was feared that the decomposition process would affect the results.
Oh my
They
God.
would lay a person down, and without anesthesia, they would cut them from fucking gullet to groin, and they would pull organs out while the patient, the human fucking being, was still alive.
So,
Yeah.
were they? Does it say anything about them doing anything? You say no anesthesia, but there are things that you can do to keep someone from passing
No.
out from shock
No, absolutely not. They didn't want to taint the results at all. So
Wow.
nothing.
Whatever happened, happened, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus
Um,
Christ on a fucking cracker.
The infected and vivisected prisoners included men, women, children, and infants, of course.
Fuck, man.
Prisoners had limbs amputated in order to study blood loss. The limbs that were removed were sometimes reattached to the opposite sides of the body,
What?
just to see what the fuck would happen, Chris. If you go online, which I don't think you should do,
No.
but if you go online, there are pictures of the most prominent picture I can find that is absolutely credited to Unit 731 is that of a man's left and right hands, and his fingers look like maybe he had rubber bands tied around them for far too long because they've blown up like sausages. But in fact, he has had the digits on his left hand moved to his right and vice versa. And
What the fucking shit?
distal organs do not appreciate being severed and then reattached into the wrong positions. They just
No,
fucking
I
don't.
imagine they do not. That's
Um,
not the way it's supposed to be. What the
So,
fuck?
I don't think it's far beyond the realm of just human understanding that's not a good thing to do to people. Kind of just like ever, you know.
Fucking A.
Some prisoners had their limbs frozen and then amputated, while still others had their limbs frozen, then thawed out to study the effects of the untreated gangrene and rotting.
Oh my god.
This one here, this one stuck with me pretty hard, Chris. Some prisoners had their stomachs surgically removed and the esophagus reattached to the intestines.
What? What? Now, why would you want to remove the processing portion? You just want the food to slide right in your mouth and right out your ass. That's what they're
I
trying to
mean,
have happen.
Like,
They
here's
think
where
maybe
it gets.
that's a more
it gets-
efficient way.
Here's where, to me, it gets to be more just to see what happens, I guess. You know,
That sounds like some human centipede type shit.
it's God, it's so much worse than human centipede type shit.
Like
This is like, I don't even fucking know, man. They are taking men, women, children, and infants of all fucking goddamn ages, just like some circus barker would beckon to fun, and they are laying them down on a table. They are putting a scalpel in between their collarbone and their top rib, and they are pulling it all the way down to the bottom of their groin. And yes, that means what you think it fucking means. And then they're just spreading human beings that are still very much alive open to see what the disgusting fucking goddamn venereal disease they pumped in them is doing to the insides of their body. Now there is a quite horrifying picture of a vivisected prisoner that is female, that is quite pregnant when the vivisection took place. It is a very heartbreaking and stomach churning picture.
Lord.
And this is something that would happen day in and day out, and people would do this to other human beings without batting an eye, because research, man.
Now,
Fucking research.
You can say fucking research, and this is the same with the whole Nazis in the prison camps and all that kind of shit. Excuse me, Mangala and all that type of shit. You can say they didn't bat an eye. You can say they're just doing what they're told, but at a certain point, you really just have to start wondering who the fuck found and gathered all of these fucking psychotic fucking sadists and put them all together, right?
Well,
like how?
Well, Chris, my theory on this is that, I mean, there were only a few higher ups that were so sadistic, that were so fucking just terrible that I mean, you wouldn't believe stories about them if you've heard them, and they just passed down the orders, and they had to be followed. There is no, when you are in the army, you follow orders or you go to fucking military prison, which, from what I have been led to believe, is none too nice. And so, if it's an atrocity that I believe no one will ever hear about, because that is exactly what my superiors tell me, then I'm gonna do the atrocity so I don't go to jail. I mean, I would rather just hang out in jail, personally. But
Yeah,
someone that wants to make a career, someone that wants to make a career out of what they're doing, somebody that was specifically put into this unit and told, hey, you're going to do great fucking things here, right?
Oh my god.
Who is this person to tell their commanding officer / scientist that I don't think pregnant women should be infected with syphilis and then cut open while the baby's still inside of them to fucking see what happens? Just to fucking see what happens.
That's unbelievable. This is blowing my mind right now, but please continue.
So, as well as some prisoners had parts of the brain, lungs, liver. My research here says etc., which I think might be too light of a word, but
Yeah.
I guess
Pretty much everything?
fucking cunt shits doesn't technically mean and more.
It sounds to me like no stone was unturned.
Anyway, a lot of these parts were also removed from prisoners. In 2007, excuse me. In 2007, the Japanese army surgeon Ken Yuasa testified to the Japanese Times that, and I quote, "I was afraid during my first vivisection, but the second time, it was much easier. By the third time, I was willing to do it." He personally believes that at least 1,000 people, including surgeons, were involved in vivisections over mainland China.
Wow. 1,000 different people were doing this
Yeah.
on a daily basis for how many years? 5 or 6?
From 7 to 1.
7
So
to 1, so
4 or 5. Yeah.
Ooh.
In other tests, subjects were deprived of food and water to determine the length of time until death. They would be placed into high-pressure chambers until death, just to see what happens to the human body. Spoiler alert, their eyeballs pop out and then they die.
Yeah, that's what happens.
They would be experimented upon to determine the relationship between temperature, burns, and human survival. They would be placed into centrifuges and spun until death. They would be injected with animal blood. They would be exposed to lethal doses of X-rays. They would be subjected to various chemical weapons, including just fucked up shit, man. They would be injected with seawater to determine if it could be used as a substitute for saline. Also, spoiler alert, it can't be.
No,
And-
no.
They would be burned often.
There's fish
And-
brew in there.
And also very often they would be burned alive until death.
You know what this honestly sounds like is
A fucking great time, and there should be a fucking theme park there and water slides that have you fucking like, oh no, now I'm in like where they cut logs up and shit, and now I'm dead and I'm vivisected, and my syphilitic fucking goddamn fetus is just being looked at under microscopes. Am I right? Is that what you were gonna say?
no, but I'm sure there are people that might feel that way. No, I was gonna say this sounds like a compilation of pretty much everything they've always wanted to try but never was allowed to try because of whatever
Of common
code.
human decency?
Well, sure, that too, yeah. But how do you talk? How do you talk the higher ups into letting you do these types of things? You know what I mean?
Not in Japanese,
so-
I'll tell you that. Or maybe in Japanese, I'll tell you that.
It could be Bible facts. It's one
Man.
of the, yeah. It sounds
No,
like
no,
one
no,
of
no,
those
no, no.
things.
Don't you dare feign like you can say a Bible fact and it be Bible fact.
I'll
Yours,
destroy you.
yours are at best like, I don't know, facts of the Karma Sutra.
So I have mythology, and you have the actual Bible fact. That's where we're going with this.
Yeah, I mean, I wait. Are you saying that that Bible facts aren't mythology?
I'm asking you if that's what you're saying.
Hey, man, are you questioning our Lord and Savior, Pete Sanford?
Always.
Well,
Fucking
Pete's got a little
always.
something for you, Chris, and it's a big old hug, and it's full of just love of our
And
Lord and
steroids.
Savior, Pete Sanford.
No.
That's right, people. Pete Sanford, our Lord and Savior, lives at 1704 Sycamore Street in Iowa. I can't give you the city, but hopefully you can figure out where it is based on information I have given you. Wink,
Google
wink.
knows.
Google does know, and if there is a Pete Sanford out there that lives there in Iowa, Sycamore Street, I believe I said, I apologize for the I don't know, Midwestern housewife fucking groupies you have now.
You're not supposed to apologize until we get an email.
Hey man,
You fucked it up.
I have gotten
fucked it up.
plenty of emails at see no hear no speak no pod at gmail.com.
Or
Hmm?
did you get them at snhnsnpod@gmail.com?
That is actually where I've gotten them, yes. It's
Just
like
as I suspected.
it's like I should maybe like shut down that first one, or maybe we could just stop giving that email address. But you know, I kind of like that we have two, even though I've only ever gotten emails on one. It feels more like there's like a super secret line that you can reach us at. You know, like where we're Batman and they're the Commissioner, and we're all in just super sexy clothes, just ready to
Oh,
go
yeah.
biff, bam, and
Okay.
pow all
So
over.
if you- it's like
just-
calling the red phone.
It's like calling the red phone. That's right. You pick up that
Gotcha.
phone, which is see no hear no speak no pod at gmail.com, and I
the one.
will send a ballistic missile to whichever Middle Eurasian country you deem fit for intercontinental ballistic missiling.
I see.
Allegedly, I will do that. I
Allegedly.
may not have the power. I may just be able to try to do it with my mind.
Let me stress that if you send these requests to snhnsnpod@gmail.com, you will not be received
They will not be
with
heeded.
the same.
Mm-mm.
No, you will not be. No, you may get a different type of response.
You might just have Chris send you a 5-second clip video of him picking his nose in a truck stop mirror. I can't make promises. I can't. Because the world is chaos. And chaos is the world. And that's not a scary thing. It's just one that's unknown.
Now, I'm going to send you a compilation of all the famous Richards that I can find on postcard, and put them in a penis-shaped envelope.
Shit,
and
man.
Send them to the address associated with the IP address that the email came from. Not that I'm a hacker, because I don't know anything about that.
No.
I'm totally
But,
just making this up.
Like the IP address as an address, like actually spelt out in that's a number 5. That's the letter of the C. E.
Dick pics is what I'm getting at. You'll get it. You'll receive a package of dick pics.
Yes. Or now hear me out. Chris will cure your cancer. He will steal away them AIDS. He will let you walk again, Miss
Allegedly.
Smith. But he needs you to give your faith to Steve fucking Sanchez. What did I say his name was?
We'll go with Steve Sanchez this time.
That's not his name. Fuck, man.
That was not his
He
name.
lived on Sycamore Street in Iowa. I know that much.
That he does, but it was not Steve Sanchez.
It was Pete something.
Pete Sanford.
Oh, man.
That's what it was.
So, the Japanese scientists performed, they performed tests on their prisoners with the plague, cholera, smallpox, botulism, among other diseases. And the research led to the development of the defoliation bacilli bomb. Also, the flea bomb, which was used to spread, again, the
That is
bubonic
fucking
plague.
awful.
Some of these bombs were designed with like porcelain-like ceramic shells, which was an idea proposed by Ishii himself in 1938. These bombs enabled the Japanese soldiers to launch biological attacks, which would infect agriculture, reservoirs, wells, and other fucking civilized areas with anthrax and plague carrier fleas. Typhoid,
That is
dysentery,
fucked
cholera,
up.
and other deadly pathogens were also used. During biological bomb experiments, scientists dressed in protective suits would examine the dying victims. Infected food supply and clothing were dropped by airplane into areas of China that weren't occupied by the Japanese forces in the Second Sino-Japanese War. In addition, poisoned food and candy was handed out to unsuspecting victims, and then
Come
the
on.
results of such were examined.
I guess leaving no stone unturned. Fuck.
But man, in 2002, in Chengdu, China, which was the site of the flea spraying attack, had held an international symposium on the crimes of bacteriological warfare, which estimated that at least 580,000 people died as a result of these attacks.
Fucking A. Let's develop a foot spray that gives you athlete's foot?
So, the unit complex itself covered about 6 square kilometers and consisted of more than 150 buildings. The design of the facility made them hard to destroy by bombing.
That is huge.
They had quite a few factories. It had around 4,500 containers to be used to raise fleas. It had 6 cauldrons to produce various chemicals and around 1,800 containers to produce biological agents. Approximately 30 kilograms of bubonic plague bacteria could be produced in just a few days.
Jesus Christ. They're making it by the key. It's fucking insane.
Some of their satellite facilities are still in use today by various Chinese industrial places. A small portion, though, has been preserved and is open to visitors as a war crimes museum.
A war crimes museum.
So in Tokyo,
Was it
during
war
this,
crimes though? Because they were just doing what they were told to do
No,
by the fucking emperor.
these are kind of the this is like the definition of fucking war crimes, Chris.
What, to us?
To The Hague, I guess,
I mean, sounds like some, I don't know, fucking subordinate fucking dudes to me. Doesn't
Okay.
sound like a
Well,
crime if you're emperor.
they weren't.
I mean, it's not like the government. This is the
They-
emperor.
They weren't
handing the shit
considered
down.
crimes by the Japanese government,
At
um,
the time.
but by the rest of the world, really.
Oh,
so-
I guess. If you care
so-
what they think.
Operations and experiments would continue until the end of the war. Ishii had wanted to use the biological weapons in the Pacific conflict since May of 1944, but his attempts were snubbed repeatedly. The Russians basically ended up invading Manchuria and eventually Mingjiang in August of 1945. The unit had to abandon all of their work in haste, basically. The members and their families all fled to Japan. Ishii ordered every member of the group, and I quote, to take the secret to the grave, threatening to find them if they had failed him, and prohibiting any of them from going to the public. They issued potassium cyanide vials for use in the event that the remaining personnel were captured. He kept the skeleton. He kept the skeleton crew of troops till the very last days to try to blow the compound up. But most of the buildings in the compound were so well constructed that they survived somewhat intact. So here's where it gets interesting, or infuriating, or man. I need to take a quick
Okay.
break, Chris. Hold on one second. Fuck. Yeah, I'm dying of thirst. I have to go fucking pour some liquid in my cup. Just keep recording.
Pour some liquid in
Ah.
a cup, then I drink it all up.
Where you guys at?
Shithole, Iowa.
You're in Iowa. Go see Pete. Go see Pete Sanford.
I wonder if there's a Sycamore Street here.
I bet there is.
Look up good old Pete Sanford. Go
Mhm.
kick his ass.
Okay. Let me take a sip of my drink. Clear my throat. Ooh, I made that one way too strong. Okay. Me mama mama me mama me mama me mama me mama. That's my vocal warm up, Chris. What do you think?
I like it. I like it.
Do you-
Very, very
Do you
graceful.
feel warmer?
Only below the belt.
Well, that's where I was aiming. So, now we get to the the part where the American government grants immunity.
Wait, what?
That is complete and utter immunity from being prosecuted at all for what they've done here. After Imperial Japan had surrendered to the Allies in 1945, old Dougie MacArthur, oof, man, if he didn't have the look with the corncob fucking pipe and the aviator glasses and the cool general's hat and always being in like a Jeep and shit, man,
Dougie Mac.
you would think he had like a small dick or some shit, you know?
Old Dougie Mac.
Old Dougie McArt. He, of course, became Supreme Commander of the Allied Powers, and he was in charge of rebuilding Japan during the Allied occupation. He secretly granted immunity to the physicians and scientists that worked at Unit 731, including their leader, Nishi, in exchange for providing America, but no other wartime ally, with the research on biological warfare that they had gathered.
Wow.
American occupation authorities monitored the activities of former unit members, including reading and censoring all of their mail. The U.S. had believed that the research data was valuable. The U.S. didn't want other nations, particularly the USSR, to acquire any data on biological weapons. Now, here is where I might make an unpopular stance. The information and data that they gathered is invaluable.
Indeed.
They performed experiments that no sane human being would ever deem appropriate to perform and catalog. They did it, and these are results that we cannot, in society at large, we can't replicate.
I agree.
The results are needed. We need what they found from doing these things, because no one else is willing to fucking do these things. And I'm okay with no one else being willing.
These things again.
But since they were already done, we need them.
Yeah.
The scary part about that is that the people that hold the keys to that information are fucking, honest to God, war criminals.
Indeed, they are.
These people, there was an estimated, I believe, maybe somewhere around 30,000 prisoners of war taken in at Unit 731. In the days at the end of the war, when they burned the place down, they took the remaining 100 prisoners there outside and they shot them all in the fucking head. Chris, not a single prisoner made it out alive from Unit 731.
So wait, what about that 30,000?
They died. Every single last one of them died.
So, what? Because... What? Why?
The Japanese, while doing all of these experiments, knew that each one would result in a fatality, which is why they were doing these experiments. They needed to see the limits that could be pushed before death.
Okay, so when they knew they were going to be raided and all this other shit was happening, they just killed everybody. So not only could they not tell, but
I mean, there were
whatever,
only
whatever.
there were only 100 prisoners left. I say only 100, but in the grand scheme of things, that's a drop in the bucket. Well, they
Right,
took
right.
that drop outside and they put it on a hot tin roof, and then they shot it in the fucking head.
Oh. Last few logs on the fire, I guess. Wow.
That is both hilarious and super insensitive.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Man,
Ugh.
they are big, they are heavy, and they are wood.
God damn.
So
dude.
back to what I was saying. Basically, America was like, look, man, you are fucked up, but like, I've got to see pictures, man. Like, I've got to. And if you do, like, I won't tell anybody about all the fucked up shit you did. But like, holy shit, dude, you are fucked up.
I mean, yeah, science has to see the pictures. Science has to go through all the data collected. And that is...
You make it sound so goddamn dirty, Chris.
I'm trying to make it sound as black and white as
Man.
possible.
Science is just all the pictures. The pictures.
Because
You're terrible.
it's
Is
super
what I'm
fucked
saying.
up.
Is you're terrible.
It's super fucked up.
All right. Do you want to hear the? There was an internal War Department memorandum that was dated June 23rd, 1947, and it is from General Dougie McArt. He says, and I
Dougie Mac.
quote, "Since it's believed that the USSR possesses only a small portion of the technical information, and since any war crimes action would completely reveal such data to all nations, it's felt that such publicity must be avoided in the interests of defense and security of the U.S. It's believed also that the war crimes prosecution of General Ishii and his associates would serve to stop the flow of much additional information of a technical and scientific nature." Now that sounds cold and calculated and very fucking scientific, but as painful as it is, nothing is going to bring these people back. If we can learn from, I mean, obviously there's sacrifice, then, I mean, what do we do? What do we do? Do we say that this data is far too tainted to include in the human nomenclature? Or do we say that if the data is there and it's readily available, we take advantage of it? The only way that we see perceivably...
Yeah, we gotta take advantage of it just because, and I say it because this is scientific data. This is not like medieval fucking, they're just cleaving people and shit just to see what
Right,
happens.
they
type
had
scientific
they
data.
had conditions, and they had the protocol, and they had things that they had to follow, and anyone, even a scientist of today, could find what they did, see the protocol that they followed, and then they could come to a conclusion of an outcome
True,
based
just
on
based
the
on
data collected.
without ever having to reproduce said experiment.
Exactly.
I agree, and that in itself is what makes it invaluable. Now, granted, this is perhaps the type of data that needs not fall into the wrong hands. So yeah, maybe in that sense, I guess I could see where somebody would say that it should just it should not be included, in our archives. But no, I'm gonna have to side with you, and even if it is the unpopular vote, and say that it's too invaluable. It has to be.
It literally is hopefully being put forth as a betterment of humankind. It could also
Indeed.
be used most likely for the downfall of the very fucking same. But one can fucking dream, I suppose.
Yeah, that's pretty much where that one stands.
Until you hear that General Ishii, the head of the whole thing, lived out his life on the outskirts of Tokyo until he died in 1959. Other graduates of Unit 731 include the former governor of Tokyo, the former president of the Japan Medical Association, the former director of the Health Ministry's Preventive Health Research Center, the former chairman and president of the Green Cross Corps, and the past heads of a number of Japanese medical schools. The
Wow.
man in charge of all vivisections, Yoshisuke Maruta, became director of the respected the Kyoto University Medical School, and later medical director at Kinki University.
Fucking wow, dude. So
These
none
men-
of the prisoners got away alive.
Correct.
All of the scientists were given immunity. and most of-
Except for, I think, 6 we're about to get into, but yes.
Okay, and then most of the top scientists in each area or whatever went on to be top shit in the real regular world, civilian world. Wow, that's so fucking crazy. So they basically
Okay.
got raises after getting immunity.
I mean, they were still highly respected medical people. You know, they were doctors and they were scientists, and I don't want to say that they are above such things as feeling bad for fucking cutting up a live human being, because they shouldn't be. No one ever should be, but they are a consummate men of science.
See, but shit like this makes me wonder, though. Like, okay, if you're not a complete fucking psychopath, you know, or sociopath, or, you know, if you have remorse and you do have sensitivities for what you're doing, for what's going on, right? Okay, and you're put in a position where you have to do these things out of, you know, legal repercussions and blah, blah, blah. Do you sleep well at night? Like, these people, like, they're top scientists.
Man, some
so they
people's
go
brains are
on-
just so analytical that it's like a computer. And I mean, I
Right,
can't say this for certain, of course, but I mean, I don't know, man. It's also when does an over analytical mind become a psychopathic fucking murder machine?
when it's pleasure for you on a different level.
How could you go day in, day out, act like this is your 9 to fucking 5 without deriving some sort of pleasure from it? You'd have to invent some kind of pleasure just to fucking sleep at night, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what the human brain can be. What's the word I'm searching for? Well, I guess more or less forced to either adapt to or even forget in some instances. Because like you were saying, the one dude mentioned that, you know, the second and third time, you know, by the third time he was willing to do it. And like,
Yeah.
it's one of those situations where, like, is it what are the main factors? And I guess they're probably different for any other situation outside of that sort of militarized orders, you know, because there's got to be the pressure and the fear of what happens if I don't, and blah blah
Right.
blah blah blah.
But
So-
you know what's funny though is that this guy had an easier time getting used to cutting up live people than I did to fucking picking up the habit of smoking cigarettes in high school.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
I mean, it took me at least 5 cigarettes before I was like, I could really use another cigarette. This dude was like, 3 bodies? What bodies? These guys are just logs. A wink, nudge. I'm gonna cut into this screaming human being now.
Well, I mean, think of all the bodies that were tortured and dropped in fucking.
I don't want to
wars.
think about those
Well,
people.
okay, but what I'm getting at is, I feel like whether whether it was out of necessity or what necessity for whatever reason, or any other reason, fucking. I feel like there were more remorseless killers back in history. Like,
But none of them, other than fucking Pol Pot, got to personally kill thousands.
None of them, but what?
Pol Pot, the Cambodian dictator.
I don't know that story.
Well, holy fuck, man!
Oh,
if you got
wait,
some
wait,
goddamn
wait,
reading
wait.
to do.
No, wait. Cambodia, that was the one about, like, even the people that had glasses, and, like, if you were too smart or deemed.
It's a holiday in Cambodia.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the
I
Dead
actually
Kennedys,
have
man. That's a good song.
I actually have a friend who's Cambodian but born in Thailand because his parents escaped that.
Well, that's good because it was
Yeah.
a complete and utter ethnic cleansing of a genocide, and it was, I would say, gauche to be, proper in present female company.
I didn't know the dude's name though. Alright,
Pol Pot.
that-
His name was Pol Pot, like a pot that's sitting on top of a pole. Only the words are reversed.
That is fucking crazy talk.
You're crazy talk, bitch. So, the Soviets had separate trials because they were the first in, so they actually had a few of these fucks. So, although publicly silent on the issue at the Tokyo trials that took place where no one was prosecuted, the USSR pursued the case and prosecuted 12, not 6 but 12, top military leaders and scientists from Unit 731 and its affiliated biological war prisons, Unit 1644 in Nanjing and Unit 100 in Changchun. In the Khabarovsk war crime trials, included among those prosecuted for war crimes including germ warfare General Otozo Yamada, the commander-in-chief of the million-man Kwantung Army occupying Manchuria. So the head of the entire fucking occupying army is being prosecuted for war crimes, but by Russia, which really fucking good for him.
Hell
yeah. You work hard your whole life, you get to the top, and finally you'll die in some fucking Siberian goddamn prison next to an astronaut that didn't do his fucking job.
Crazy talk.
The trial of those captured was held in Khabarovsk in December of 1949. There's a whole trial transcript that was translated into a bunch of foreign languages, which I've actually looked at maybe the first 10 chapters of, and then I had to stop. But what was it called? You know what? Look it up if you really want to see it. It's online. It's free. So
We like free.
one of the top Soviet prosecutors at the Nuremberg trials actually was the prosecutor here. The Japanese doctors and army commanders who had perpetrated the experiments received sentences from the court ranging from 2 to 25 years in a Siberian labor camp, which means that you have to just oil the meatiest, hairiest, just goddamn beefiest beefcakes all day long. I think is if my Russian law is up to par and not completely made up on the spot, Chris.
Peeling potatoes every day, all day.
That's what they call it. They call it peeling potatoes because when you're rubbing the oil on the pure hairy man meat, it feels like you're just like taking the grit off and then putting like a different kind of gritty but slippery at the same time layer back on, you know?
Reeking of vodka and fucking.
We're all named Vlad.
Wow.
Americans at the time refused to acknowledge the trials, branding them communist propaganda because a red scary me in the 50s. You know? After World War II, the Soviet Union built a biological weapons facility in Sverdlovsk. I am getting better at Russian. I'm just going to throw that out there, Chris. I really am.
Slowly but surely, sir.
Using some of the documentation that was captured from Unit 731 in Manchuria. So after World War II, I don't know if you know this, Chris, but Japan became kind of like maybe like not like a summer home, but like maybe like a doghouse for America, you know? But you know, under our occupation of Japan, all the members of Unit 731 and other experimental units were just allowed to go free. One graduate, quote-unquote graduate, of Unit 1644, Masami Kitoka, continued to do experiments on unwilling Japanese subjects from 1947 to 1956 while working for the National Institute of Health Sciences. He infected prisoners with rickettsia and mental health patients with typhus.
What the fuck is going on there?
All kinds of shit, really, you know?
No. My fucking, hang on, my fucking reefer unit just turned on double time for some reason. It sounds loud as shit.
That's because you've been smoking too much reefer in there, man.
No, I'm hoping there's not something wrong with it. I'm gonna have to finish this shit up and go check it.
I bet you there's a dirty condom wrapped up in it. You guys are gross. I hate you. Okay. Well, to finish off this whole thing, nice and quick. The Japanese, until the 90s, said Unit 731. What's that? The only reason that they ever acknowledged anything about its existence at all was that somebody who had been involved in it had a book from it, basically, and I'm guessing, this is my theory, that this person died, and then his kids and grandkids were like, we got all these books at Grandpa's, and everybody's like, fuck Grandpa's books, and we're like, yeah, let's sell them to a stupid bookstore, and the bookstore gave them like $50 for 1,000 books. So somebody finds a book in an old bookstore that is basically a logbook of experimentation from Unit 731. So now we have proof.
God.
Now we have actual proof. And the Japanese government is forced to say, okay, yeah, I heard of it. So what of it? And that's all we'll ever get from them, because they think that what they did in Asia is not just they think it's okay, Chris. Like, I mean, what the fuck, man? They don't say that they think it's okay, but they won't say that what they did was fucked up. It's like America.
All's fair.
It's like America and fucking slavery. Everybody knows it was garbage, and people in American government have come out and been like, hey man, yeah, that was pretty messed up what the slaves and stuff went through, but we have not come out and been like, hey, we fucked up so bad. Like, there's no way we can make it up to you, but holy shit, did we do like just worse than terrible shit to you guys, I apologize. You know?
Well, that was the question then. Oh, well, that not that specifically, but about America was going to be my question that I was going to save for the end. In that, what is it? You kind of partially answered it when you said about the whole communist propaganda shit. But seriously though, what is it about America? How we just pick and choose the atrocities we want to fucking,
Well,
teach in history and fucking hold so goddamn dear that fucking everybody who's anybody needs to know that the Holocaust happened, even today, little kids gotta know that this shit happened, but we don't know about any of the other shit in any of the Asian
oh no,
countries.
man.
And it's a lot
Like-
of shit.
Like,
Africa
actually-
too, it's a lot of shit.
oh, I would think Africa's actually maybe worse. But like,
Sure, probably.
like everything I've talked about in Unit 731 happened over like 5 years or whatever. But like, I want to one day, but I mean, I need to really fucking research this shit to do it any justice. But I would love to do an episode about the rape of Nanking. That every atrocity I could possibly imagine, I or you, that isn't long-term fucking doing experiments on folk, happened in one evening
Oh no.
in Nanking while Japan was invading, where they were basically given carte blanche to do the most horrible things that they could possibly imagine to another human being, and they did them. There are reasons that it's called the rape of Nanking and not the conquest of, or the taking of, or the battle of.
Wow. Fucking A.
And that is also part of the Second Sino-Japanese War.
Whew. I say
Anywho.
goddamn.
So, tons of terrible shit was done to humanity. Most likely, lots of it to completely innocent civilians that were just picked up because. And then
Suspicious
the people
behavior.
that perpetrated such crimes were let go without a care in the world to carry on with fabulous fucking goddamn careers and lives and die in the lap of luxury with their loved ones, Chris. Does it make you feel better about your life?
Not even a little bit. I mean, maybe, I guess, about my life, I suppose. Yeah. But
Well,
no, at least not the last hour and a half of it that's been fucked up.
I guess the grandest way that I can put this is you've just listened to another just fucking eat a bullet already episode of See No, Hear No, Speak No.
Well, no UFOs this time. I suppose this is a conspiracy if you want to look at it that way. But goddamn the Moitas. Fucking wow.
Right? And the funny thing is I'm glad if it was one of you, either you or James couldn't do the show. I'm kind of glad it was James, because for the past 2 weeks I've kind of been hinting him into specifics about this, because when I find something like this, I find it hard to keep to myself, not because I need to spread
Right.
the word, but because it rots me from the inside out. And so he actually heard quite a bit of what went on there in far less detail. So he will probably hear about this as the rest of you will, which is on this stupid fucking show for idiot dum-dums that smart people are okay with listening to, because sometimes the facts aren't just from the Bible.
And sometimes we're smart too.
Man,
Sometimes.
it's so rare, but when we hit it so goddamn hard.
Oh, I hit it. Never mind. I'll stop there.
Count down, sir.
Good call.
Fucking San, ni, ichi. Goodbye, Fred.
Like it.